Cash vouching and audit in banks. Vouching. Introduction to vouching. Correctness of accounting records is the primary responsibility of auditors. In order to complete this requirement, an auditor does critical intelligent examination of banking transactions and book of records by the process of checking, vouching, and verifications, which ultimately would establish that the entries in the books are correct, and this correctness is reflected in the banking transactions in figures with the required supporting evidences and documents. Now it is documents. Source documents. Source documents are documents which play their part as evidence and supports every entry in the book of accounts. They also form the foundation for almost all of the accounting records. By presenting detailed information about business transactions, these source documents are in fact the property and proprietary of accounting transaction, and they may originate from within an organization or outside the purview of the business environments. Source documents from within the organization. From within the organization, source documents that are included are sales invoices, purchase orders, deposit paying slips, bills payable, and salary and wage sheets. In a business context or company context, maybe salary and wage sheets may be vouched, or the deposit pay-in slips may alone be vouched. Source documents from outside organization. From outside the organizations, source documents that are included are bills receivables, debit memos from banks, checks from customers, and suppliers' invoices. Following purposes are served by source documents, namely provision of written records of accounting entries, triggers physical operations, actions and events support evidences, and updates accounting records. So this sums up an introduction to vouching. Also, we discussed about the documents and source documents which we have both from within the organization and from outside the organization. Now let us see what is a voucher. A voucher is a documentary evidence that seconds a business transaction or a transaction in banks. As explained, it may comprise of payee receipts, counterfoils or receipts issued, credit notes, invoices, debit notes, etc. Most of all times, a voucher is taken as a receipt for money paid. The requirements of a voucher must include name and address of an organization making the payment, date of voucher and a voucher number, folio number of the cash book, name of the account debited, payments particulars, amount in words and authorizations for the same payment, etc. Now let us see what is vouching. Detailed examination of documents or documents to ascertain that they support a particular transaction is called vouching. So it's actually about detailed examination of documents or document that they support a particular transaction, which goes with every transaction, is actually called vouching. It is meant that in this process of vouching, whatever gets recorded in the book of accounts is subject to a verification by an authority and also checks that are done to verify authenticity of different types of transactions. So it no matter involves in the process of vouching, it no matter involves verification by an authority and also checks that are done to verify authenticity of different types of transactions. Authenticity of transactions are examined by auditor when they perform the vouching activity. Appropriateness and authorization also is made sure by the auditor when they do this process. For example, evidence will be checked and is made sure whether it represents a legitimate transaction. Once after verification, the auditor makes sure the transactions are properly classified and recorded in the books. Normally, the duty of the auditor does not stop there. He goes deep into the transactions and see whether these transactions are genuine. Vouching is an important activity that is undertaken by the auditor, and he makes sure whether all the evidences related to transactions are recorded and no voucher is left unrecorded in the financial books. So that's about vouching. Next, we'll take a look at the different types of vouchers. So now it is voucher types. As explained, vouchers then can be explained in terms of evidences of the different entries in the account books and may be primary or collateral. Some vouchers provide primary evidences, whereas some others may provide collateral evidence. For example, a written evidence in original is a primary evidence, and as such, invoice of a purchase may be a primary evidence. When the primary evidence is not available, substantiation of vouchers happen by presenting subsidiary evidence or collaterals. The following are the important voucher types, namely journal entries. In the book of journal proper, journal voucher exists which records the last balance sheet available. Cash received. In cash book, counterfoils of receipts issued by correspondence, minutes or contracts exist. This is one type of cash received voucher. Cash paid. In payment side of cash book, there exists original receipts of payee supported by such evidence as demand notes, bills, invoices, wage sheets, contracts, etc. Purchases. In purchase book, original invoices, goods inward books, and copies or order given exist. Purchase returns. In purchase returns book or return outwards book, voucher for credit notes received, goods outward book, etc. exists. Sales, especially credit sales. In sales journal or sales book subsidiary, copies of invoice sent out, orders received, correspondence, etc. exist. Sales return journal. In sales return, copies of credit notes, goods inward book, and correspondence may exist. So this sums up the vouching types, which are journal entries, cash received, cash paid, purchases, purchase returns, sales or credit sales, sales return journals. Next, we'll take a look at what is accrual vouchers. Accruals may be related to wages, taxes, and interest. In regard to wages, the auditor should mark the pay period used and see to it whether any accruals of wages which is pending exist in the pay period used. For liability, the auditor may look towards interest and taxes. Generally, the auditor fixes in the general program any items of accrual so noted. Next, we'll take a look at what is checking by auditors, or what are the different checking which is done by auditors. So this falls into three different categories: routine checking, test checking, and acceptance sampling. As a matter of routine, auditor checks the book of accounts and does checking of CAS, sub-CAS, carry forwards, other calculations and extensions which are present in the book of original entry. Auditor also checks the checking of postings into ledgers on the basis of balancing of accounts, CAS, carry forwards, etc. Auditor should undertake a verification program to review the internal control system and evaluation of the effectiveness of the same upon individual circumstances is what decides whether an auditor can rely on internal checks, which are normally mentioned in agreements. Hence, auditor in most cases has to check some items randomly in order to finalize his assumptions. This is test checking. Now, we'll see what is acceptance sampling. Acceptance sampling enables an auditor to decide whether information pertaining to internal controls are good, bad, or inefficient for being indifferent in set circumstances. So this sums up the section which we have on vouching.